2 minutes till broadcast. One minute till broadcast. Thirty seconds till broadcast. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin transmission.
Fighting for freedom every day.
They are absolutely desperate to pretend the last 4 years never happened and for them to go back to what they liked to do before, which is create these massive spending bills to pretend that it's really, really important to you when you only get about 5% of what's in the bill, and they can't do it because we're aware of it. We're paying attention to it, and they don't like that.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
You're darn right, it's the Voice of Reason. Welcome into the show. It is a Tuesday, the post-Monday celebration. I can't believe that we are, I always said, I can't believe it, because it's starting to be like, it's unbelievable. But it's hard to believe, let's put it that way, that we are already into January, and the way that we're kicking off 2021 is such a wild year with the runoff election in Georgia today, which I want to spend a lot of time on. We have the electoral college certification. It votes tomorrow in Washington, D.C. We have a major rally going on in Washington, D.C. If you are a political guru in any way, shape, or form, this is the time to be alive and for you to be paying attention and to focus, because this is what we are all about. This is the American way, in a frustrating way, but the American way nonetheless. Welcome into the show, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on our flagship station all over the country. Radio, TV, live streaming, podcasting, doesn't matter where you're at. We have a great show lined up for you today. You're not going to miss any of this. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we have Kathy Barnette. We've had her on the show many times before. She is one of our most favorite guests. She is the author of the book, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Being Black and Conservative in America. And we'll have her on the show to talk about both the runoff election today, plus the electoral college certification tomorrow, plus her election, as she ran in the state of Pennsylvania, and she has not conceded that race as well. So we will look forward to chatting with her here in a little bit. Before we get into the politics, though, I have to admit, I knew it was going to happen, but yet I allowed it to happen myself already. I got home last night, Mr. Voice of Reason. We had a wonderful dinner. Little Voice of Reason. She's all about watching now America's Got Talent. We watched an episode of that on Hulu last night while we were eating dinner. We got her off to bed and we sat down, and I was kind of tired. The wife's not feeling too good. We kind of had some cold running through. As you know, I was pretty stuffy with the cold the last couple of weeks, but she's kind of having it now, stuffering. So we sat down and we're like, what do you want to watch? And I said, it's a little bit earlier than usual. We got laid down. We're kind of relaxing. What do you want to watch? And I said, I've been wanting to start this show and just kind of get an idea for what it's like. I've heard it's really good. And she's like, all right. So we turn on Netflix, we turn on Cobra Kai, the spin-off TV show that was originally from YouTube, but now it's a Netflix show. Netflix must have bought it or something. I don't know. It's on Netflix now, but it is the spinoff of The Karate Kid, the original 1984 Karate Kid movie. Daniel-san, that one, the original. And I said, why not? Let's turn it on. And it's a story about, Daniel LaRusso, that's what it is. And he is now a car dealership guy, really big, well-known. He uses the whole Karate Kid thing for his whole shtick for the car dealership. And then the blonde guy that was the arch enemy in the Karate Kid is now kind of a bum. He can't hold a job. He tries to open up Cobra Kai, the dojo. And now it's that story. Well, guess what? I binge watched 8 episodes of that last night and didn't get to bed till like midnight. And I knew it was going to happen because I've heard that everybody got addicted to it. But I said, why not give this thing a shot? I've heard it's really good. When I was a kid, The Karate Kid was like my ultimate show. I absolutely loved that movie as a child. So I was like, why not? I've been wanting to see it. Let's see. Yeah, I got addicted. Now I'm on episode 8 because I binge watched almost I don't know how many episodes are in the season, but I binge watched a crap ton of it last night, and now I'm extremely tired. But nonetheless, it was a great show. Highly recommend if you want to watch it, and may have to do that again tonight. But it doesn't compensate for the fact that today is an amazing day. Today's an amazing day. It's a great day for America. It's a great day for the state of Georgia, as Georgia has their big runoff election today, which I'm anticipating what the election results are going to be. Tonight, I may not watch a whole lot of the show because tonight I will be focusing a lot of attention on election results coming in. I don't know how long they're going to last, although the media is anticipating it's going to be an all-night thing, many of them saying we won't get an answer for another day or two. Why is that? It's one state. Can't be that difficult. Now, the Georgia Secretary of State came out and made a statement, yesterday, over the weekend, a couple days ago? I think it was yesterday. He came out with about a 30-minute speech and really didn't talk much about the election other than get out the vote, and then the entire time just trashed President Donald Trump and his legal team about the concerns about voter fraud and irregularities in the election. And he tried to counter them. He tried to talk about how great the election process is, how we don't need to worry because everything's running smoothly, how you just don't need to worry about all this stuff. Okay. Only problem is now I think a lot of people are a little concerned about going out to vote. Lynn Wood, if you remember, and Sidney Powell about a month or so ago held a rally and said I wouldn't be voting in Georgia if it was on the Dominion voting system. Well, as far as I'm aware, they haven't changed their voting process in the state of Georgia at all. Now, this is after them admitting that they were connected to the internet when they're not supposed to be connected to the internet. That's after them admitting that there were some irregularities in some areas. That's after the whole dead people or mail-ins or absentees. I just got off the air with Mark Walters on Armed American Radio with his, because he's based out of Georgia, and we talked a little bit about this election, and it's wild for them to try and justify everything that's going on and try and set you up for an extremely long night when it doesn't need to be that way. It's a very simple process. If you have mail-in ballots, if you have absentee ballots, it should be a simple drop it in, you're good to go. They should already be counted, ready to go. So as soon as the polls close at 7, boom, the early numbers are in. Then all you had to count are the ones that actually voted throughout the day today. Very simple. Very easy. No. Not going to be that way. We're going to count those first, and then we'll count the mail-in and absentees. So we'll do the big running start for the Republicans, and then let the Democrats trickle in overnight. And then, I don't know where the 200,000 votes came in throughout the night at 3 o'clock in the morning when we weren't even counting. Crazy concept. So I'm excited, yet anticipating to see what's going to happen in Georgia tonight with the early voting. Now, the polling shows, and by the way, early voting had record numbers in the state of Georgia. They had massive amounts of people doing early voting, which could be good, could be bad, because apparently there weren't a lot of people showing up to the polls today, although the quote-unquote experts, believe them or not believe them, say pretty much that they needed about 1 million Republicans to show up in the state of Georgia to win the election today, or else Democrats will win. According to the latest polls, believe them, not believe them, I don't necessarily believe them, but this is what they had to say. They got to keep it close, right? In the Perdue and Ossoff race, Ossoff was up by, at 9 a.m. this morning, by 49.1 to 47.4 over the Republican David Perdue. In the other race, we have Kelly Loeffler down to Warnock, 49.4 to 47.2. So close races within 2 points of each other, which is in the realm of like a 5-point margin or 3-point margin, whatever it is. So it's within that, but they show the Democrats in the lead. Now, I want to stop and just reflect on this for just a second, shall we? Number one, there was $833 million. Let me repeat that number for you. There are $833 million spent in the Georgia runoff elections between these two Senate seats. Now, I don't live in Georgia. I don't know how much they usually spend on these, but I guarantee you it's probably not near the $1 billion range for pretty much all of the races, including like state legislative seats, including the governor's race. I'm assuming there's usually not $1 billion almost that runs through the state of Georgia when it comes to general elections. So the fact that $833 million went through here is a little absurd. I don't know why that was even necessary, because if you went and voted in the general election, more than likely you're going to go and vote for the runoff election in January. Yeah, you need to remind people, but that should be more like a Secretary of State thing, like, hey, there's another election. And then the candidate's trying to get their word out there a little bit. If you voted for one candidate over the other candidate, I highly doubt that you're going to change your vote in the runoff election for Georgia, will you? Maybe. I don't know. I was on the fence. Either like some guy that likes really like high taxes and high regulations and big COVID restrictions and mask wearing, and we like to shut down businesses and create regulations for people, and we like to impose our will. Either that, or the guy that's like less taxes, less regulation, more conservative principled, Second Amendment issues, right to life issues, whatever. I don't know. I voted for one, but I might flip to the other guy after this election. I highly doubt that we're going to see that. But $833 million is a shove in the face to every Georgian out there that has to listen to all this garbage for the last, month when it comes to the campaigns. That's like at the wedding when you are sitting there and you're about ready to cut the cake with your significant other and you shove the cake up their nose. Like, here, I want you to not only taste this, I want you to feel it. That's what $833 million looks like in 2 Senate runoff races in the state of Georgia. That's like my little one, little voice of reason. She when she was little, she was like 1.5, maybe 2. I don't think she was 2 yet. She was in the ones. And we were over at some family, and I was holding her, and we went to pick her up because she was visiting family. And she had this teddy bear. It was a stuffed animal, whatever it was. It was I think it was a lamb, actually. And I picked her up, and she was so excited to show it to me. And she goes, Dada, look, look. And she shoves it in my face to where I can't breathe. Look. Shoving it in my face. So excited. Look, Dada, look. That's what $833 million looks like in a Senate runoff race in the state of Georgia. I'm just saying. It's a little absurd. Yes, we get it. There's an election. Thank you for that. We know who we're voting for. We're not going to change our vote compared to what we saw in November compared to what we did now. So thanks. We now know your platform. We now know that you can attack your opponent. We appreciate that very much. Thank you. $833 million, a little bit absurd. For any Republican or Democrat out there, I'd like you to remember that the $833 million, by the way, is coming from somewhere, probably not all from your pocketbook donating to these campaigns. So more than likely special interests that are going to be holding them accountable once they get into office, whichever one it may be, that's going to be not necessarily in your best interest, but in the special interests. Just reminding you for that as well. Number 2. Georgia is still a predominantly Republican state. It's kind of like here in Kansas. We had a U.S. Senate race. It was a vacant seat. Our Pat Roberts, senator, he was here for like 30 years or something, retired. It was a vacant seat. Democrats sunk record numbers of money into that Senate seat trying to win that and make it a Democrat seat. Because Democrats have not held a U.S. Senate seat in the state of Kansas since the 1930s. Republicans have been dominant when it comes to U.S. Senate races here in the state for that long. They sunk $20 million into a race here in Kansas when usually the races for the Senate are maybe like $1 to $2 million. Something like that. Maybe 3, pushing it. But usually around $1 to $2 million. She sunk $20 million into a campaign. Guess what? The Republicans still won. Why? Because it's a Republican-dominated state, and they thought for some crazy, wild reason here in Kansas, they'd be able to swing it blue. I'm assuming that's what's going on in Georgia. They have a Republican legislature in Georgia. They have a Republican governor in the state of Georgia. And so far, they have Republican senators in the state of Georgia. Why that state went blue to Joe Biden? The things that make you go, number one. But I'm sure Democrats are so desperate looking at this, thinking that they could pull it off, that they sunk massive amounts of money into it, thinking that they could actually swing the state because, well, Joe Biden won it, right? Why not? But it's a predominantly Republican state outside of the inner city areas, the large populated areas like Atlanta and some of the other large cities there. There's really not. There's mostly rural communities, which means Republicans should win that state pretty easily in both races. They should have won it in November, which, again, makes you go, But number 2, you would think, all right, if it's a red state, there are only 2 reasons why the Republicans would lose the Senate race today with the runoffs. And those 2 reasons why really anybody would lose these elections in the state of Georgia as a Republican would be, number 1, fraud, or number 2, low voter turnout. Now, right now, we're in a situation in Georgia where we have mad Republicans because Donald Trump didn't win the presidential race, didn't win it in your state when it was contested as an irregularity or a potential voter fraud. So you have mad Republicans. Guess what? Anger turns out a lot of people to the polls. That's why you see so many negative campaign ads from both sides of the aisle. My opponent wants to take away your rights. My opponent thinks that you're unsafe. My opponent's a jerk. That's what you hear all the time because anger is a very good emotion. The politics of fear, the politics of hatred, the politics of division is a very strong emotion to make people turn out for an election. So we have angry Republicans, but yet we have encouraged Democrats right now. And with an angry Republican base and a Democrat encouragement, thinking, wow, maybe we could have a president that's a Democrat and presidential, and then the Senate that could be tied with the vice president doing the tiebreakers. We could have a Democrat majority all across the board. They're encouraged. Question is, out of which of those emotions is going to lead more people to the polls today in Georgia?
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HooserReason.com. Again, HooserReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with the Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hoosier-holic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe through any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com.
For a schedule of upcoming guests on the program, daily show topics, or to reach out to the Hooser Media Network, visit us on the website at HooserReason.com. Or for general inquiries, to be a guest on the program, or to have Andy a guest on your program, email us at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Keep fighting for freedom with us every day right here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network. Now, back to the show.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome into the show. Thanks for hanging out with us today. It is a Tuesday, the post-Monday celebration, Election Day in the state of Georgia. As you know, from you listening to the program back in November, we love election time. That is my primo time. That is our Super Bowl, and the fact that we get another one is sad and pathetic, yet at the same time a little exciting and exhilarating. So we'll see what happens today. Now, here's the positives and negatives. The fact that we have, as we mentioned, there are two reasons why Republicans would lose this election. It's a red state. Georgia's a red state. Should be very easy for them to win. It should be like a 60-40 ratio in the state of Georgia. Maybe a 55-45, but it still should be like a 10-point difference between Republicans and Democrats in the state of Georgia. There's only two reasons why they would lose. Number one would be fraud, or number two would be low Republican voter turnout. Now, I can understand there could potentially be some low Republican voter turnout. Andy, why? Well, because we don't trust the system right now. We've been hearing for the last month that there's some irregularities. We're doing investigations. We're upset with the courts because they're not continuously allowing us to make the case. We've been hearing about all the shenanigans going on. Oh, they tried to clean some of it up. Okay, fine. But we don't trust the system. There is no way, and let me make this very clear for everybody on the other side of the aisle that listens to this program, because I know you do, because I get emails that are very angry saying, Andy, you don't know what you're talking about. Let me make this very clear. There is no way, zero, zilch, nada, that Joe Biden got 80 million votes in this election. It is just not fathomable. This is the third time he's run for office. He got 0.5% of the vote the first time he ran. The second time he got like 1.5% of the vote. He's an unpopular guy. He doesn't remember what the color red is, for crying out loud. He's going into the stage of dementia, and yet he got 80 million votes. Doesn't make any sense. We've already covered that numerous times on this program, but just to make it clear for the other side of the aisle, there's no way, which means there's something weird going on. Whatever it is, can they pinpoint it? Are they able to lock it down? Are they able to prove it in the court of law? Are they able to prove it to the elected officials that challenge the Electoral College? I don't know. We'll find out. But there's something going on. Everybody knows it. So our trust in the system is a little damaged. I could see why some Republicans wouldn't want to turn out. What's the point? They're going to see how many votes we have. They're going to throw in and inject a whole bunch more, and then they're going to win again just by a slim margin. And I don't know how Democrats pull it off. But that's what we're concerned about. So the Republicans that are like, I'm not going to show up. Understandable. However, at the same time, you're very angry because of all of that. And to me, at least, number one, I can't walk away from my civic duty of voting because that's like the most patriotic thing you can do. So, and most Republicans get that. Democrats, on the other hand, they'd be the ones who are like, I don't trust them. Then they would just like sit in their safe space and cry. Republicans, however, we understand it's our civic duty. We understand it's like the most patriotic thing you can do. So you're going to show up. Number two, if you show up en masse, make it harder for them to rig the system. Although 75 million votes for Trump makes it a little difficult for the rig it when they found a way to do so. But nonetheless, you still make it very difficult at a statewide level to try and make them rig the election for the Democrats in there. I don't think Republicans are not going to show up. Now, I heard an expert, don't know if this is true or not, say earlier today that, well, with all the early voting, and Democrats usually favor the early voting, that Republicans need nearly 1 million people to show up on Election Day in order for them to do well. That's possible, and I think that will happen, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be that close. I really don't. If you look at the primaries in these elections, the third-party voting that happened, Libertarian candidate, Independent candidate, all the other yahoos that think like, I'm going to win on a third-party ticket. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people like it. I'm not a fan. And we can discuss that at a later time again. Both of those races would have been won easily with Republicans if the third-party Libertarians that predominantly have more conservative, limited government, free market, laissez-faire mindsets voted Republican as opposed to Libertarian. The fact that this is now a runoff with these two candidates, that's probably who's going to get them. So even if you got the exact same number of votes last time, but just added the Libertarian votes in, both Republicans would have won easily, hand down, in both elections in the runoff races for Georgia. So I don't see it being an issue unless there's fraud. And I know it's a frustrating issue. but we need to turn out, we need to show up, because if we don't, we'll talk about the ramifications a little bit later, but there's only two reasons in a red state like Georgia why we'd lose, and that's fraud or low voter turnout. I don't see low voter turnout for Republicans in this election. I see them fired up. I see them angry. I see them showing up in mass, either with early voting or voting today. We'll see what happens by the end of it with the results, hopefully by early tonight.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of The Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.
The Hooser Media Network is way more than just the voice of reason. It's your source to find numerous different online talk shows, podcasts, TV, and radio programs, all in one simple online location for you. From political talk to health talk to whatever you may be interested in, we're here for you. And I tell you, it's growing every day. Catch Tracy Maxfield with her podcast Engage, Educate, and Empower, discussing mental health issues in children and teenagers. From bullying, teenage suicide, addiction, ADHD, and so much more, learn from Tracy and her guests about symptoms, signs, and ways to talk to your children, plus so much more. Having battled depression, being the author of the internationally acclaimed book Escaping the Rabbit Hole, and being a retired nurse, Tracy is kind of the go-to on the subject. Make sure to find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, along with her website at tracymaxfield.com. Also, make sure to tune into the weekly podcast Jump, Pivot, and Roll with Shannon Stiles and Rachel Murphy. Taking that next big leap of faith is hard. Trying to write a book, maybe struggling with a relationship, looking to take that next big career step. What's stopping you? There's a lot of big questions there, and they're questions that Rachel and Shannon want to help with you each and every week. It's Jump, Pivot, and Roll on any of your favorite podcasting sites and on Facebook and YouTube. All of these shows and a heck of a lot more can be found on the Hooser Media Network Facebook and YouTube channels. Make sure to follow and subscribe to check them out today. Follow all the shows, and if you have any inquiries, check us out at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com. Hey, miss a show? Don't worry about it. You have plenty of opportunities to watch, listen, learn, and be entertained with The Voice of Reason anytime you want. And here's how you can do it. First, become a Hooserholic by going to HooserReason.com and signing up for the show newsletter to get the latest on the show, upcoming guests, topical discussions, and more. Next, subscribe to the podcast and have the show automatically downloaded to any platform you like to use. You can subscribe to any of your favorite platforms with iTunes and Spotify, Google Play and TuneIn, or you can also go and subscribe directly to our Podbean website. Last, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com, search Hooser Reason, and subscribe to watch all of our shows, videos, and get notified whenever we're live. All the links and info are at HooserReason.com. Oh, hi. You know, conservative messages now are more important than ever before. Election season, state legislative issues, and a rise in the radical left socialist progressive agenda. What we really need now more than ever before is knowledge and wisdom. That's where we come in. Hi, I'm Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. And I'm your voice for reasonable talk, conservative commentary, great guests and entertainment on radio, TV, and the internet. It's time to bring some common sense back into the discussion. National issues, state legislative issues, no matter where you may be, upcoming elections, and a heck of a lot more, we can bring traditional values, constitutional principles, and local activism back. And here's what you can do. First, follow us on all the social media platforms at Hooser Reason. You can watch the live stream of the show, leave comments, and even call into the program. Second, make sure to subscribe to the podcast on all of your audio devices, from iTunes and Spotify to Google Play and TuneIn, Make sure to subscribe to have every episode automatically downloaded so you don't miss a single episode. Third, make sure to visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can catch our monthly blog talking about deeper discussions, see who's coming on the program, plus you can sign up for our free monthly newsletter to catch the latest on the show, monthly topics, upcoming interviews, and more. It's time to be that local activist again. That's what the Voice of Reason's all about. Why? Because that's kind of the reasonable thing to do. And it's time for you to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser with the Voice of Reason. The show's growing all the time, and as we talk about the big issues of the day, one of the big parts of the program is you. And I want you to join us on the program. Whether you agree, disagree, or just want to relieve some of that political frustration, we're here for you. No matter where you may be watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, go ahead and leave a comment on the live stream. Chat with other listeners and let me know your thoughts on the topic. Also chat with us on the Podbean chat room. Just go to our live stream of the show at podbean.com and chat with other listeners. You can also call into the program. Just download the Podbean app onto your smartphone, join the live stream, and call in through the app. This is your show, and we want to hear your thoughts. So go ahead and join us here on the Voice of Reason and the Hooser Media Network.
When Reason Meets Radio. You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Darn right you are. Welcome back into the show. Thanks for hanging out today on a post-Monday celebration. Tuesday, the greatest day of the week. We have the election today. We have the electoral college certification. Don't know how that's going to go tomorrow. We'll talk about that here in just a second. All of it, happy 2021, kicking off a brand new year in a crazy fashion as we try to cram 10 pounds of reason into that 5-pound bag, trying to rebrand it the millennial generation, one radio listener at a time, as we are the fastest hour of radio on radio all over the place. Thanks for hanging out with us today. By the way, you can find all of our social media and live streaming on all of these social media sites: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, LinkedIn, on minds.com, also on parlor.com, all of them with the handle at Hooser Reason. No I in that, just HOOSER Reason. Also on the website at HooserReason.com. We also have our blog up there for the month with our newsletter that went out on Monday. So if you have not read the blog yet, then you can go do that as well at HooserReason.com. I'm excited as we have the election today. I'm feeling optimistic, although, not a whole lot has changed so far. But if we get some of those third-party voters, libertarian voters, to swing back to our side, which is what we need to happen, then we could win this very easily. As I mentioned, there's only two reasons why we're going to lose this race, why we could lose this race in Georgia, and that is either fraud or low Republican voter turnout. And there's not going to be low Republican voter turnout. We are angry, we are fired up, and we're going to make sure that doesn't happen again. To talk about some of that and more, I'm excited. Our very first guest for 2021, and one of my most favorite guests here on the program. She is the author of the book Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain: Being Black and Conservative in America. She was also a Republican candidate for District Number 4 in the great state of Pennsylvania. Kathy Barnette hanging out with us today. Kathy, how are you?
Hey, how are you?
Oh, doing great. It's so good to talk to you again. Happy New Year, and it's a crazy time for us, isn't it?
Happy New Year. We made it.
We made it.
We made it out of 2020, and I am so, telling someone, hopefully 2021 doesn't tell 2020, hold my beer. So I'm hopeful that 2021 has great things in store for all of us.
I really think so. I am encouraged because there are more people that are awake, that are aware, that are educated, that know what's going on. For so long, which is what Congress wants to do, by the way, and you can see that with the latest COVID bill, is let's just get back to complacency. Let's get Trump out of there. Let's not be the stir in the pot, the rabble-rousers anymore. Let's just go back to normal business. We'll pass massive spending bills. We'll give 2% to the American people. We'll have the media pundits talk about that 2%, where if you don't pass this, people are going to die in the streets. If you do pass this, then we're just creating a tyrannical government. And then the rest of it will just go to foreign agencies. We'll have our own agencies. We'll just bloat the government. We'll just give it to special pet projects. Let's just go back to the normal where people don't know what's really going on, but we can just get away with what we want to.
Amen.
Yeah.
And a woman.
And a woman. That's right. We got to have that in there. I don't think we're going to go back to that. There's too many people awake this year, aren't there?
you know what? I mean, and that is the upside. I mean, that is the upside. What did, oh my goodness, one of our founding fathers, his name is escaping me right now. It'll come to me in a moment. But he was asked, what kind of government? He said, a republic, if you can keep it. That is what it's all about, right? If we can keep it, and how do you keep it is by having an informed and truly woke majority. And I am hopeful because I've chartered 3 buses. We're all heading down to D.C. tomorrow. I'm expecting millions of really pissed off Americans to be there and to demand that their representatives actually do their job and represent them, not the media, not corporate America, not big dollar PACs, not lobbyists, but to represent we the people. And I believe they're going to get a rude awakening tomorrow.
I really think so. I know that there are many Republicans in the House, over 100, and we thank them for trying to challenge the Electoral College certification. I don't know if it'll go through just because Democrats still run it, but we have a good pact in the Senate. We have a good pact in the House. They have to hear because, I mean, we see marches in Washington, D.C., and we'll be really excited when there's like 1 million people or so. But you're right. I see millions, multiple of millions showing up in D.C. tomorrow to really make this. And Congress cannot ignore something like that. This is a major movement with people that are, as you mentioned, pissed off the fact that Joe Biden, there is no way that he received 80 million votes in this election, and we want answers and we want something to be changed.
I mean, like we all saw the 6 circles that weren't all populated at his rallies. We all saw that. We know that he did not get 80 million votes, but even if he did, we can take a loss and we will be able to say, you know what, we'll get y'all back in 4 years. But if a portion of what is being alleged is true, we cannot allow ourselves to be manipulated into thinking that we can get this right 4 years from now. No, we need to get this right now. A large majority of the American public, not just Republicans, but across the board, realize that something horribly went wrong on November 3rd. But what do you do when the court is derelict in their jobs? Because you see, our side, the more decent people's side, we don't riot, we don't loot, we don't burn down people's private property, we don't drag folks' children into the street, jump on their head repeatedly until they go unconscious, as we saw the left do, some on the left do, during their summer of rage. Instead, what we do on our side of the political aisle is that we pivot to the U.S. Constitution that affords us the right to have our grievances heard before the court. But what do you do when the court repeatedly pushes your case aside and says and dismisses them based on standing, not merit, refusing to look at the evidence? And so that is what we're demanding from our representatives, is to lay the evidence out. If there's nothing to see there, then okay, fine. But I believe there's going to be something to see there because I see it in my own race that I just completed here in the 4th District of Pennsylvania. So I know that there's something there to see. We are demanding that our legislators actually do their job.
Yeah, it's a wild concept. Do your job and make sure that it's a fair election. And the fact that they don't want to do that in many courts is, again, angering for some. And it just shows the red flags of, wait, something's not right here. As you mentioned, I mean, you ran in you ran in the 4th District of Pennsylvania. Last time we talked to you, right after the elections, late November, I believe was the last time we talked, you had talked about some potential irregularities in your race that could sway the election. Have you heard any updates on yours? I mean, where's your race at right now?
Yeah, well, I still have not conceded, so I am still the candidate for the 4th Congressional District of Pennsylvania. I like what Peter Navarro said. He said we have experienced theft by 1,000 cuts. In this election. There is not just one silver bullet, people. There are multiple bullets, right? And they may appear to be small, negligible, and don't really have the ability on their own to overturn the results. But when you add them all up, right, when you add up some people were allowed to cure their ballots and others weren't. That happened in my race. When you add up pre-canvassing that is against our election code, that begins to create the ability the power to overturn the will of the people. I mean, I, like most, had several hundred dead people show up and vote in this election. I know, astounding, right, that they will wake up from the dead just to vote in 2020. But I had several hundred dead people who did that. We have their name, their address. We have all of that information, right? We also had about 3,000 people who received a ballot, and they're not on our voter roll, meaning they're not allowed to vote. And a third of those people actually turned in their ballot and participated in this election. Probably one of the most, most interesting, and one that we haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but now they are, is these voters. I don't know if I have time to explain that, but these unidentified voters we found on our rolls.
Yeah. We got about 2 minutes before we got to take a break. So dive into this unidentified voters. I mean, this is like a gender question here. We're not quite sure what we're dealing with.
Look at you. Exactly. Look at you. Exactly. And guess what? It's not germane just to my county. We're working with legislators in Arizona. They're there. We're working with people who are investigating their irregularities in Georgia. They're there. And essentially, when you go to register to vote, you would either do it online or by paper. And in either of those settings, you're given two options for your gender, male, female, or you can leave it blank and it would default to the null, N-U-L-L value. But when you look at my voter roll, you don't see three options. You see four. You see male, female, null, and then you see these unidentified voters. So one of the first questions we asked ourselves is who are these people, and how in the world did they populate our voter rolls? Because there's no organic way for them to do that, because it's not an option for people to select. And yet we have over 120,000 of these non-male, female people on my voter roll, and 90,000 of them came out and voted in my race. So we pivoted to our first statistician who gave us a list of a little over 1,500 people. We assembled about 100 people, including some private investigators, to go out and meet some of these people. The first statistician that we went to said, my algorithm is telling me a third of these people are phantom voters, meaning they're not real. After we finished canvassing over the course of about 4 days, we found 29.5% of the households we went to had at least one of these phantom voters, people who are not real but who cast a vote in this election. We hired a second statistician who has confirmed what the first one said. So we got a real issue. Who are these people? How do they get on our voter roll?
Yeah, I tell you what, let's talk about this when we come back here. We got to take a break real quick. We're talking with Kathy Barnette, Republican candidate for the 4th District of Pennsylvania, also the author of the book, Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain. This is fascinating in a way for them to scoot around the laws, and it sounds like try and make it so vague that we can't even try and track these individuals down. One other reason for the voter fraud. We'll continue that conversation when we come back.
Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Hey, it's Andy Hooser. While you listen to the delightful broadcast of the Voice of Reason, don't forget to check us out and follow us on all of our social media sites. Whether you're using Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Minds.com, or Instagram, we're there for you. Find us at Hooser Reason on any of your social media platforms. You'll see special commentary, links to the articles and news that we use on the show, and videos of the broadcast. Plus, you can directly send us a message on social media during the show to let me know your thoughts. Many already do, and it's a great chat room for all of our great listeners. And you can always sign up for the Patreon site to get exclusive content, maybe hear show products before we air them on the radio, and a lot more. And when you support us on Patreon, you also help the show be able to fight for conservative values each and every day. So it's a win-win. Just find us at Hooser Reason on all of your social media platforms, or you can find a link to all of our social media sites on our website at HooserReason.com. We know you're on social media already, so bring some reason into your day. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do. Miss part of the show? Don't worry about it. There's plenty of ways to catch the program, and here's how you can do it. First, make sure to tune in every day right here on your favorite radio station. We're here for you. Second, subscribe to the podcast on any of your favorite sites. YouTube and iTunes, Spotify and Google Play, TuneIn, Podbean, and more. Have the show automatically downloaded to your favorite device. Last, visit our website at HooserReason.com. You can listen to the podcast, catch our special features, and more. It's the Voice of Reason on radio, TV, and online, helping you defend and preserve this great republic. Hey, it's Andy Hooser. Want to reach out to the show? A big part of the program is you, and we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts of the show, maybe a guest we've had on the program, or my favorite, when you disagree with something that I talk about. You can email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or send us a message through our website at HooserReason.com. The show's not about me, it's about you. So be heard and be your own voice of reason. Again, email me at HooserMediaNetwork@gmail.com or find our contact information at HooserReason.com.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason with Andy Hooser.
Welcome back into the program. It goes by so fast. So fast. Last segment left as we wrap up today on a Tuesday. We'll get some more information on the Georgia election as well. Right now, we're talking with Kathy Barnette, author of the book Nothing to Lose, Everything to Gain, Being Black and Conservative in America. Also, Republican candidate for the 4th District in Pennsylvania. Mind blown in that last segment as you talk about some of the potential voter fraud going on with the... Now, you mentioned 120,000 registered, 90,000 of them showed up to vote in just your district alone, 4th District of Pennsylvania. Where
just my district alone.
Yeah, where they're saying that they chose a fourth option for their gender identification opportunity, obviously to try and you can't identify me because I'm just third party. You don't know who I am because I don't know who I am. Gender confusion. Now, nationwide, there is like less than 2% of the entire population that is transsexual or in that category of the LGBTQ community. Which people live their life their own. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care. But there's less than 2% that are transgender in the nation like that. It's like 1%, 1.2%, something like that. It's really small.
Right.
120,000 registered voters just in one district seems a little high itself already. then 90,000 of them turning out to vote, and that potentially swaying an election where they're not just not choosing a gender in their male or female, but choosing a fourth option that's not even supposed to be there of something completely unidentified. Like, the whole thing just seems fishy and weird.
And and the great thing from our perspective is that this is very easy to understand. You only get 3 options: male, female, or you leave it blank and it defaults to null.
Right.
So it's a very legitimate question to say, who are these fourth gender people on our voter rolls? How did they get there? There is no organic way, because if you went out to register, you're not given a you as an option. You have to select male, female, or leave the bucket blank.
Right.
So it's a very legitimate question. It's not a tinfoil hat question. So that's where we started, is focused on that. Who are these people? How do they vote? We saw that they popped up on our registration in 1996. They lay dormant until 2004 when they voted for the very first time. 1,100 of them came out, although there was 40,000 of them, but only 1,100 of them came out. And then 4 years later, 2008, it jumps from 1,100 to 58,000 of them coming out to vote, and this is when Obama ran. And every 4 years, which is when they really come out, an additional 10,000 of them come out. So it went from 1,100, jumped up to 58,000 in 4 years. The next 4 years, it jumps up from 58,000 to 69,000, 79,000, and then this year, a little over 90,000 of them come out. And so these are very legitimate questions. But then you add on to it the fact that we pivoted to 2 a statistician. One of them is highly credentialed, and they both say these people, some of these people, not all of them, I'm not saying all of them are phantom, but there is a portion of these people who are not behaving like normal males and females. Right. Now, add that to then we go out and we knock on their doors and we figure out that 29.5% of the homes we went to, out of the 1,500 people we were given, almost 30% of them are phantom. At least one phantom person is in that household. We have a problem here, Houston, and this is very legitimate. And so when we have thousands of affidavits now that have been submitted from a national perspective, in addition to, with our own eyeballs, we saw people pulling suitcases from up under tables after creating a fictitious narrative that there's a water line break that causes people to go home, and then you see them pulling these suitcases out and busily processing ballots. And then you see other times where they're processing the same stack of ballots on a number of occasions. We cannot allow this to happen. This nation does not exist apart from the U.S. Constitution. And what we have seen just in Pennsylvania, where you have the Governor Wolf, Secretary of State Kathy Boockvar, and the PA Supreme Court completely circumventing the U.S. Constitution, paying no regard to the U.S. Constitution, making up the rules when it's very clear that that is the role of the legislators, but having no deference for the U.S. Constitution, could care less what we think and how we feel about it. And so the nation does not exist apart from the U.S. Constitution. And when you have a major political party, just circumventing the U.S. Constitution, ripping it up and putting it to the side, that's a problem.
It is. It's a serious problem. It's time for us to step up and make sure that we don't allow this to happen again, which is why the election in Georgia is so important today. Kathy Barnette, nothing to lose, everything to gain. Hopefully, here soon we talk to you again, and you're going to be Congresswoman Kathy Barnette after some of this stuff happens. But it's so good to talk to you. Happy New Year. Good luck with the investigations. Let's talk to you again here real soon, and we appreciate the time so much. Back at it tomorrow here on The Voice of Reason. Everybody have a wonderful Tuesday evening. Hey, it's Andy Hooser with The Voice of Reason. Fighting for conservative principles seems more difficult all the time. The progressive left seems to find new and creative ways to limit freedom, abuse power, and trample the Constitution each and every day. That's why we need the knowledge, resources, and common sense to push back, and we can help with that. Visit our website at HooserReason.com. There's some really great stuff for you. You can read the latest blog discussing topical issues and current events. Let us know your thoughts by filling out our monthly survey. Keep track of what I might be doing or where I may be speaking. Listen to the podcast of your favorite guest or show, and check out our latest Voice of Reason product infomercials. Plus, you can find upcoming show schedules and guest lineups to plan your radio listening appropriately. And finally, make sure to become a Hoosier-holic by subscribing to the free newsletter. Stay up to date on the latest news of the show, fun facts of the month, and learn new ways to defend and preserve this great republic. It's all there at HoosierReason.com. Again, HoosierReason.com. Go check it out. Why? Because it's kind of the reasonable thing to do.